His research interests include, but are not limited to, rehabilitation services for persons with mental diagnoses, school to work transition for adolescents with disabilities, correctional rehabilitation counseling, suicide prevention, substance abuse counseling, bullying, and triple negative breast cancer awareness and prevention. He has authored and co-authored several book chapters, and journals on rehabilitation counseling related topics. Dr. Lewis currently serves as the chair for the statewide Independent Living Council, appointed by Governors Fallin and Stitt. He is a certified question, persuade, refer instructor, QPR, and applied suicide skills intervention training trainer, assist, and he has a passion for mentoring youth. Throughout his career in higher education, he has disseminated knowledge by presenting at over 50 local, state, regional, national, and international conferences. As a rehabilitation counselor educator, he has over 17 years of professional counseling experience and has served as a board member on several local, regional, and national rehabilitation counseling and service organizations, such as SILC, ACA, NAMRC, NRA, ORA, NCRE, Chi Sigma Iota National Honor Society, and Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. He is very well trained to teach rehabilitation counseling related courses. Welcome, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the bio. And it's like, man, it's like, wow, I do all that stuff. In which, just a little more personal about me. I definitely have a commitment to providing direct services for people with disability, which I probably didn't share, and a lot of people don't know, that I acquired a disability, at the age of 20. I got shot by a 14-year-old kid, basically being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And so as a result, I lost the mobility to use my hands, and which had significant nerve damage. So I've been a consumer, for vocational rehabilitation services, and have ultimately worked my way up to being a rehabilitation educator. And so thank you so much. And I just like to make that connection that, I'm intrinsically motivated, to support the mission of Silk and to support the centers for what they do, because they are the ones that's in the trenches. And so if I will share my screen here, since you gave me access to do so. Okay, can everybody see that okay, or should I put it in? Most of the time, like when I'm teaching.
It looks like it's trying.
Huh?
It looks like it's trying. It says Dr. Lewis has started screen sharing.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Yes.
All right, so I'll probably just deliver from here, because when I go into the slideshow mode, it kind of cuts off, some of the slides, okay? All right, so basically, you pretty much know who I am, what I do. And what I'd like to talk about is just first, what we do with the statewide Independent Living Council, and which our mission is to provide the leadership and guidance for state planning process for independent living services, in which there are like 5 independent living centers, and we provide the support, for those centers ultimately. The statewide vision of the statewide Independent Living Council, is to envision a political, social, economic environment that plans for and actively promote equal access and full integration for people with disabilities in our society, in which that's so important. The core values of SILK is related to consumer control, making sure that consumers have equal access and equal opportunities, despite their functional limitations, provide full integration, to provide to advocate for respect for people with disabilities. Continue core values, it ultimately focus on participation, whether a person wants to do something in the world of work, where they want to, integrate themselves, from trying to get a date, and to have equal access to transportation or have other opportunities that able-bodied people would do. And so we support, the full participation of those individuals with disability, because I think sometimes it shouldn't take for a person to have a disability in their family, to recognize the need for those individuals with disabilities to have equal access to participate. I mean, there's one thing to have equality, in which everybody wants to see this world the same way. And we know that the greatest barrier ultimately is the attitudinal barrier. And sometimes those attitudinal barriers of those individuals that are non-disabled, kind of make people with disability feel like they don't belong. And what we're saying is that, hey, we support the autonomy of any individual to participate in all phases of life. Celebrate diversity, in which, disability is a diverse, it's a diverse group, in which is recognized as being unlike or different from others, because everybody's disability may be different. You can't just compartmentalize what by a label. So we want to celebrate, that diversity is disability is a diversity matter, as well. And so ultimately, the Statewide Independent Living Council was established in compliance with the provision of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It was amended, a few times in 1992, and had specific duties and responsibilities that focus on jointly develop and submit with the support of Department of Rehabilitation Services, a state plan, all right, which would monitor, reviews, and evaluate the implementation of that state plan as well, and other regulatory services that needs to be coordinated as well. We're also, in addition to, we'll ensure that regular scheduled meetings in which we meet, normally we meet quarterly as a board, and during that time, we find out what the center's needs are. As a board ourselves, we do other things to promote awareness within the community. We oftentimes host a number of health symposiums, that, and that's been my passion. And I'm probably have taken a leadership role in implementing various, symposium that focuses on some of the disparities, that relates to people with disabilities and people of culture. So we submit a state plan in which the governor supports. The governor supports all of the board members, in which we have various duties, as it relates to supporting the state plan. All right, the state plan is typically called SPIL, and which within that SPIL, we want to hopefully provide those independent living centers with the support to increase overall awareness and understanding of what does it mean to live independently, within a network of service providers that provide direct services to people with disabilities. People with disabilities, you want to make sure they have access to community-based resources and support that they may need to participate, not in just some sheltered workshop or in a supported living environment, but to, live in their homes if they need to, and still have access to the community and society as a whole. We also want to encourage people with disabilities to have equal access and equity in all federal, state, and county and tribal programs, as it relates to public accommodations. All right, within the board, there are 11 members. Typically, it varies, in which all the board members are appointed by the governor, in which I was appointed initially by Mary Fallin, and of course has been supported by Governor Stitt, and which all members serve, pretty much can serve 2 terms if you want, a total of 6 years. Well, when you talk about consumer control, the Rehab Acts pretty much try to do its best, to provide the language for a person with disability to have equal access to live their life with a sense of autonomy, meaning self-determination. They should decide which direction their life should go, not some institution or some other service provider. And so the Centers for Independent Living is that key agency that is placed around various parts of the state to provide equal access for those individuals to have a tangible place that they can go to seek refuge. Not refuge from a living perspective, but a refuge from a resource perspective. Center for Independent Living, like I said before, it's not a place, that a person can live, but a place that they can go there to learn, and which, depending on how the person have acquired their disability, whether it was chronic, which they had all their life, or acquired a disability, well, there are some centers, hopefully regionally, they can go somewhere and learn how to adapt, to their disability, or learn some resources or some new knowledge about how to live their life more openly and wholly, despite their functional limitations. And it'll be a safe place, where people, pretty much support them. Okay. There are 5 core areas for the Centers for Independent Living, in which is focused on advocacy, peer counseling, independent living skills training, information and referral. And I think in 2016, they added this last component that provides support and services for those individuals that are in their nursing homes or transition to a nursing home. So the mission of the Centers for Independent Living is to advocate for people living in Oklahoma with disabilities and to develop new opportunities and identify and provide access to existing resources which provides the services needed by Oklahomans with disability so that they may live independently, in the most, integrated setting and most unrestricted environment. Again, there are 5 centers located throughout Oklahoma, and we have the Ability Resources, which is in the Tulsa area, and Carla Lawson is the director there. I probably should have provided contacts there, but I can get that at a later date because I don't think I have it handy. But we have Dynamic Independence, and that's in the Bartlesville area, and which the director is Carl House. We have the Oklahoma Independent Living in McAllister, and which the director is Pam Hostney, I think. Don't tell her I messed up her name now. All right, we have the Progressive Independence in Norman by Mr. Jess. He's director by Jeff Hughes, and Sandra Beasley Independent Living Center in Enid. And Frida, I'm not even gonna try. Y'all see the name. I can't get it. Okay, but these are the 5 centers throughout the state. Now, I do want to say something about that you kind of know the areas. I mean, I haven't had an opportunity since being chair or as a regular board member to visit all of these centers. But of course, I live in the Tulsa area, and I haven't even visited that center. All right, but it's not so much important that I visit the centers in which that is my goal, because I want to make sure they have a relationship. But of course, I've only been chair for about 6 months, and of course, COVID happened, and I was on pace, to visit all the centers, toward the end of the year, that was my goal, but it just didn't happen. Okay, but that's my plan. So some of the core values, of the Center for Independent Living, so like I said before, is related to, I'm sorry, y'all, I got some allergy problem, but it's related to civil rights. All right. I mean, the disability movement, of course, was a civil rights movement. Actually, the disability movement came before the civil rights movement, to be honest, in which the disability movement was a direct result of the soldiers integrating back into the mainstream of society after, the world wars, World War I and World War II. And so it pretty much established a civil rights movement for people with disability. And of course, rightly so, those individuals coming back, with broken limbs and, PTSD and other disabilities, and nobody really thought about, promoting integration or transition services for those individuals until then. I think you can probably only imagine, how people with disability was treated prior to soldiers, being, able-bodied soldiers, then coming back broken. All right. And then I think that maybe it probably raised consciousness, of America during that time, and to recognize that, broken crayons can still color. And all right. So, something positive came out of the war is that it established, some sense of provision of care for people with disabilities. Other than that, you can only imagine, the attitude that was probably negative, toward people with disabilities. All right. Consumerism, in which consumerism is like for a person, with a disability, providing the services as well. Meaning that oftentimes at the centers, they depend largely on individuals with disabilities providing those direct services to people with disabilities. And I think that's very, very important. Also, one of the core values is to focus on deinstitutionalization, not controlling the population. Like I talk a lot about the autonomy. A person should be able to decide if they want to be institutionalized or not, or medicationalized or not, because, in some of these, institutionalization, it seems like, how can a person get better? They always over-medicated, and probably undertreated, undertreated with a sense of, humanity and dignity. We oftentimes focus on, self-help, in which that's an opportunity for you to not take a handout, which you can go and be empowered, that you can do some things, for yourself if you choose to, and to have the advocacy, the support of those individuals that may have the insight or the resources or the connections to allow that person to transition and to do what they want to do in life. Ultimately, we want to support the core values of removing barriers. The greatest barrier, I know we talk about some of the state federal institutions that have to be, ADA compliant and all that type of stuff, but within the core values of the Center for Independent Living, I think the attitudinal barriers is the greatest barrier that we need to remove, within our society. And I think the centers try to do that as much as they can. And like I said before about consumer control, meaning that we depend largely, the organization depends largely on consumers, to run the independent living centers, and not allow someone, that's not intrinsically invested, to support individuals with disability. And I think it's a great risk when you do not have those individuals providing the services just as reflective of the ones who are needing the services. And I think we can learn a lot about that from today, just in general. I'm sure you can very much so relate to some of the, cross-cultural things that's going on in America, in which we know that, like I said before, people with disability, it's a cross-cultural situation as well. Just imagine, how much more a person would be cross-culturally sensitive, to the needs of a person with disabilities if people with disabilities was truly integrated, and had a sense of control in all phases of life. Peer role models, again, the centers provide opportunities because most of the centers are ran by a person that has a disability, okay? And cross disability, that pretty much relates to activities, that people with disabilities can kind of integrate themselves to, with non-disabled individuals if they choose to. Okay, so that's pretty much an overview of all the services that they provide. And now we can just kind of talk in general about what we do. Cindy Madden is the executive director. I'm sure she's been communicating with the leaders of this event, and which she is the executive director, and pretty much everything, from a reporting, from a business perspective, she provides our administration and supports for the funding to the center. So we provide funding to the centers, in which the centers all have their own budgets, and it's based on needs, in which, some areas may have a larger budget than others, but they are all equally important. There are some gaps in the provision of services, in which, we have 5 centers to cover the whole state. And so obviously there are going to be some areas that's going to be unremote. And I think that's been one of our biggest challenges, from a board, is how to reach those individuals that are maybe in rural areas and maybe, maybe a significant distance, from some of our centers, and to be able to get there regularly, to get some of those, some of the supports and opportunities to live their life independently, and that's a great concern, and like I said, before the pandemic, we were thinking about, those uncovered areas in which I've met with Jeff Hughes and Pam, and we talked about, how to service some of those areas, because I think every person that wants the support, should get the support. It's my, from a chair's perspective, if I can do anything, I want to be able to cover the state a little more. And I think it's a daunting task because, of course, there's funding, to take into account for. And as you can only imagine as well, persons with disabilities are very much an oppressed population, and which is already underfunded. And it's with, you always have to do more with less, but nevertheless, it is a resource, and a hidden treasure, for those individuals that want to adequately, integrate themselves into society. Now, have any questions, clarity?
So Dr. Lewis, I'm just curious, we have a large group of educators that are present today, and I'm wondering how or what types of services that your organization can provide to schools or to education professionals.
Well, I think, let me see, I don't know here. We're connected to various alliances that provide independent living support and services. So if they needed, some reasonable accommodations, as it relates to learning and adapting to those educational settings, then it may work with those centers, and the educational institutions in those areas of the center. And sometimes, I know No Child Left Behind, and you want to have an independent rehabilitation plan. And sometimes, some of the educational institutions can't afford, the accommodations, for those consumers. And then the Centers for Independent Living, with the support of SILK, we may very well, co-sponsor, or a need, for a student, that may have some type of special needs.
That's great. And how would school staff be able to engage with your organization? Do you just recommend going through the centers in order to facilitate that?
I think for the most part, every area have, through the Department of Rehabilitation Services, has a school to work transition caseload. All right. So a lot of kids probably should become eligible if they have whether a mental, or academic, or cognitive, or physical dysfunction, I think they should start with connecting with a vocational rehabilitation counselor, within their respective areas. And so once they're connected with them, once they're connected with them, then they would actually provide the support to that consumer referred by the Department of Rehabilitation Services. So we want to go through the Department of Rehabilitation Services because they got the big bucks, okay? The centers can kind of like bridge the gap of misunderstanding, maybe advocate for that student if need be, if they're not getting support from Department of Rehabilitation Services. So they would have someone that would serve as their advocate, okay? And to kind of bridge the gaps of misunderstanding as it relates to the provision of services that could be potentially provided to help that student maximize their potential academically.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. So we have Kristen Coleman and Kristen Perez Rickles, and they have been monitoring the chat. Do we have any questions in the chat?
No, but if anyone has a question for Dr. Lewis, please feel free to unmic or put it in the chat and we'll share it with him. I actually did have a question, and this is probably more of a, your personal opinion question, but if there are some teachers or community members who feel very strongly about this work also, what advice or recommendations would you give to them on how they can advocate for additional funding or services for people?
Oh, wow. Now, as I noted in my slide, that the centers are a 501c3 organization, so securing external funding is very paramount, to the survival, of the sustainability, for those centers to even be of benefit, and so funding is always a plus. And if you want to get involved, I've given you in those 5 respective areas, by all means, connect with them, or let them know, or, give me a call and we can make the connections together. However, because I'm still trying to build a relationship myself because I don't know all of the centers, and so I think some of the things I've tried to do, is to, just personally, I think people with disabilities kind of out of sight, out of mind, and, let's just be honest, healthcare literacy, about people with disabilities and the provision of care that's needed for those individuals to really live a wholesome life. We got to know it's inadequate. Okay, we got to know that. So the one person, that can serve as a catalyst for hope for those individuals with disabilities, it's a plus in my book. And I take my gains where I can get them. Because this is not customary for someone to want to, support people with disabilities, in which ultimately people, what do they do when they fear something? Nothing, and so we know that, people with disabilities are pretty much feared, and it's not because they're scared of them, it's because you don't know what to do with them, but just know, that people with disability want the same thing you want. They want money, they want a little laughter in their life, sex, they want recreation, they want to be able to go and please as they want, go. I mean, transportation barriers is the greatest barrier for people with disability. What if you were programmed, to say, well, you can only leave at 4 now. You got to be back by 10. What if your life was centered around that? So raising the consciousness, of your peers in your community, I think is the greatest thing that you can do. That way, everybody will be equipped, to throw that life preserver out there, if need be. Because a person with disabilities, it's one thing to say, that they're a vulnerable population, but it's another thing to say how oppressed they may feel in their own minds, as they deal with disability issues, as they deal with suicidal ideation, because they feel not wanted, not appreciated. No one wants to deal with them, even their families, and it's not so much that they don't love them, because of lack of resources. So what if all the funding we ain't gonna say all the funding, but we'll say a significant amount of funding, was geared toward a vulnerable population. Because trust me, I didn't choose to get shot. No, I mean, the reason why I'm a national trainer, for suicide prevention is because I've been suicidal. Reason why I want to be not only a rehabilitation counselor, but a licensed professional counselor as well, is because, I didn't deal with substance abuse issues, but I had some mental health issues. And what if my neighborhood friend didn't say, hey, Phil, I hate to see you like this. You always been about something. I had forgot that about myself. I was a highly recruited football player, and just one Saturday night out having fun and don't move. I moved. And I went through, man, I mean, I don't mean to get emotional about it, but it's a tough fight to fight for people with disabilities. And I think the greatest thing we can do is every chance you get, smile at a person with a disability. Ask them if they need a little help. Ask them what they like to do. Because most people is going to do what? Look the other way. And so I go out of my way, because you're not going to look at me and tell that I have, functional limitation, in which I have ultimately rehabilitated, my functional limitation. I might can't snap with both hands. I can snap with my left hand, but I can't snap with my right hand. But I've been able to successfully, reintegrate myself, in which having an opportunity to go to school, was probably my biggest asset, because it allowed me to be marketable. It allowed me to interface with you now. I grew up, the strongest professional identities in my family, was a sanitation worker and a seamstress, and vocational rehabilitation services gave me that hope. And guess how I was referred to vocational rehabilitation services? By my lawyer. I didn't even know I was 21 years old, didn't even know about the opportunity to receive some support that helped me overcome my functional limitations. And it just baffles me, that people really don't know about the opportunities that the Department of Rehabilitation Services and the Centers for Independent Living can support those individuals that may have had some setbacks in life. Because everybody is so focused on post-traumatic stress disorder. But when you think about a crisis, yes, it stands for danger, but it also stands for opportunity. So you have post-traumatic stress, then you have post-traumatic growth. And sometimes we got to grow through what we go through. But sometimes we don't always know how to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. So we do need those able-bodied individuals to raise the conscience of able-bodied individuals about the need to support those individuals that are a vulnerable population. So I applaud you if you want to get involved, if you want to encourage other people to get involved, because people don't choose to have a disability. Trust me, they don't choose to.
We really appreciate you sharing your own experience and your own story too, and really modeling this self-advocacy that I know, most of us, all of us are working with our students on developing and building. So I appreciate you being just this really great role model for a lot of our students too. I'm sorry, Susan, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So
Okay.
just one more question, knowing that we do have teachers here, teachers who are working with students through that transition process out of secondary school and into post-secondary life. What are some, in your opinion, what you've seen, what are some lagging skills or some skills that you would recommend teachers really, really focus on for their students with disabilities, especially? I know you mentioned self-determination, and I wasn't sure if that was, something that you've seen, youth with self-determination have more positive outcomes, or if there's some sort of skill set that you would recommend they really focus on in order to.
So you're talking about the students themselves or the teacher or the educators?
Students.
The students.
What skills can teachers develop in their students to help them with that post-secondary transition and post-secondary life?
All right. So there's, in general, you make me think about some curative factors, all right, that I have to consider, in which sorry. Just look at 4 curative factors when you're teaching a person with a disability. All right. Look at what the person brings to the table. I mean, the hardest thing I had to learn as a counselor is that what I want may not be what the consumer wants. All right. So that's one, what the person brings to the table. Assess that. Because I don't want you getting burnt out over something that a person might not even have an interest in. You can't determine the standard of living that your students want to embrace. And I can recall being a mentor. In a way, God, I don't mean to bring spirituality into this, but thank you for letting me be myself. But I remember thinking like, man, I get shot. I know I'm from the hood, but I ain't a hood rat. I wasn't the one hustling. I was playing football. I had a football scholarship. I was 2 weeks from summer training. So God said, it's clear as I'm talking to you. Why not you? What are you going to do? I said, okay, well, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to help every kid that come across my path. So I was tutoring, mentoring, had kids in my dorms when I was in college, taking them to the wrestling match, trying to create, and I'm getting to hope, that installation of hope. All right, so we talk about the person. Respect what they bring to the table, because they may not bring nothing to the table, but you may be the one that creates some installation of hope by doing what? Educating them, making sure you enhance their overall knowledge about what it is that they're experiencing. Be able to put a label to it. You can't treat what you don't know. So it's been too much labeling going on within providing direct services to people that have a disability compared to diagnosing. So be able to assess what's going on or make the referral to get the assessment so they can have a better understanding of what they're dealing with personally. All right. And then the second is relationship. Anybody can fail when it's just you. Anybody can give up, especially when you're broken. Trust me, I've been there. So the relationship, that contract of having an emotional connection with someone that's broken and say, hey man, your crayons may not be sharp on the end, but if you put a little more time, a little more patience, be a little more careful, you can't just do things like everybody else do things, but you still can create that masterpiece. And that connection is empowering. Because most people, I used to say, I know, I'm gonna incriminate myself to some degree, not like that, but mentally. I used to think I said to my daughter, and she's about to be 18 in 2 days, y'all. Thank you, Jesus. All right, but I recall saying, I don't believe in bombs. And I said that, I refuse to believe that everybody gave up on that person. Because y'all have family. I don't know about you. I don't want to act like it's a hood thing or it's a black thing. White people got, you got those dysfunctional people in your family too. When you try to help them, they run you away. And so I was like, I just refuse to believe that everybody gave up on them. And my daughter hit me with a brick. She said, well, Dad, everybody don't have a family. I was like, wow. So I say, don't underestimate the power of you. and your calling to be an educator. You don't get to choose who comes into your classroom. But knowing the importance of that ingredients of having someone they can connect to. So often I use myself as an intervention strategy because I know their story. I know their situation. But if I can't help everybody, but if God brings them across my path, I try to make sure that they know that they're not alone, even if it's just my thought. And I recall mentoring in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and here I am. They would send me the so-called bad kids, right? And so I'm doing fun stuff with them because, just like any counseling related thing, you got to develop what? You ain't finna help nobody that don't trust you. So you got to do those cool things, what I'm saying? Maybe find out what music they listen to. You got to make that connection, all right? And so I'm around here taking them to the wrestling match. That was a big thing back then, kids. I would take them all the way to Memphis, go to the wrestling match. So these badass kids come back bragging. Oh, Mr. Lewis, he took us, such and such, such and such, such and such. And I had a kid to come to me and he said, Mr. Lewis, can I talk to you? A kid that I don't work with, that I wasn't working with at the time. He said, do I have to be bad to spend time with you? He hit me with, my daughter hit me with one brick. He hit me with a ton of bricks. Because we have to be careful how we reward certain kids in front of other kids. But who gets your attention? Them badass kids. Why? They might require more attention, but you can't allow them to control your classroom or your mental space because some kids do have bad intentions. So all I'm saying is be a good judgment of character as it relates to all kids in general, if you're an educator, but particularly to kids with disability. They're just like non-disabled kids. You got some that want to grow, and you got some they have accepted, where they are in life. And I don't want you to lead to burnout, want more for somebody that don't want for themselves. And that leads to the third component of the curative factors is hope, placebo. Just know you can't do it all. And the maturation of life is gonna happen. I mean, people are not gonna be stuck in that situation forever unless they want to. And you might not be the intervention. And that's the fourth component. Intervention and hope is equal. I hate to break it to my students like that in the graduate program. I'm like, placebo and hope and intervention is weighed the same. I mean, life happens. It gets better. We just got to stay in it. So depend on the installation of hope. That's placebo. Don't try to do it all right? But if they want a relationship, well, be that hope, be that beacon of hope for them. I think would be the best thing you can do because you don't know what their circumstances are. And sometimes let the people that do the thing that they need to do. I tell all the time, hey, I'm an educator, but clinically, I deal with feelings and emotions. Now, I know teenagers don't really, especially my younger clients, and most of my clients are under 18 and under, only have about 4 or 5 adults. They don't understand counseling. Not really, but they understand relationships. Yeah, I know your father passed away. Yeah, I know your father's not in your life. But what have you asked of me to do that I haven't assisted you with within reason? When have you ever called me and I didn't respond to you or get back with you? So don't underestimate the power of you, is what I would say. You know, like I said, you can't save everybody, but if the Lord brings them across your path, then just be human. Bring those human qualities out. Because trust me, whatever point you are in your life to have the credentials to serve in a professional role, well, you haven't always had that, those credentials, you know, and you had to transition as well. And some of the similar things that you needed, you know, to grow on is what your students are going to need as well.
Thank you. I really appreciated that response.
No problem. Others? Well, how many of y'all want to be counselors? Because, you know, we have a vibrant program located in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. I'm here at the Oklahoma City campus now because I had a meeting with Sidna earlier. And so I decided to meet you guys here, and I'm guessing I'm gonna have to teach my class from here later on. You know, but we have a master's program in rehabilitation counseling in which you can have an opportunity to become a licensed professional counselor as well. It's a 2-year program. We're accredited, we're KCREP accredited. We're also CORE accredited as well, counsel on rehab education as well. So if you know of anyone, you know, that want a vibrant opportunity, you know, to become a graduate student and become a licensed professional counselor, you know, send them my way. You know, send them my way. I think we have a very diverse core faculty, you know, that you're not going to find anywhere across the country. You know, within my program in Tulsa, I'm the director. I'm the graduate coordinator. You have myself. You have a Black female. You have a white male with a visual impairment. He's totally blind. They have Native American. And we have my social justice guru, many of you might know, Dr. John Sasson, and which he's a middle-aged, well, you know, he's probably like closer to 60, you know, white guy from Detroit. But I challenge you to find a core faculty that diverse in the country anywhere. I challenge you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. What a blessing you are. And we certainly appreciate your bringing your wisdom and your story to all of us here. I know everyone is really appreciative of it. And you're an excellent representative of your groups that you belong with and you affiliate with. So we're just thankful you're out there.
And thank you for letting me be myself. And if anybody need to contact me, you know, for anything, you know, I know Susan has my contact, you know, but my cell number is 901-289-5006. And so it's best to catch me there, but you can always email me as well. And that's LewisPD, P as in Paul, D as in dog, @langston.edu. You know, but you know, be on the lookout, you know, for some of the things that, you know, we're doing with the Silk. I know upcoming Juneteenth, we're going to be hosting, we're going to be joining an event that's going to be hosted by the families with sickle cell disease, in which, like I say, I host various healthcare symposiums quarterly. We really haven't did anything since COVID hit, you know, right? You know, I'm sure y'all can only imagine. But with the health symposium that's sponsored by Silk, is which we're trying to do a better job with healthcare literacy, especially within the African-American community. I don't apologize about that. I mean, I just know that's the need within my community. You know, it's a dire need. You look at every disproportion, you know, there is that's negative, people of color got it. You know, and I was just talking with some friends, and I was like, man, we got to do a better job, helping people to not hesitate, you know, as it relates to when it comes to their health, you know. And so we have these healthcare symposiums, you know, to educate the public and provide a safe place for people of color to come and to learn about who they are. You know, I acquired diabetes, you know, about 4 years ago, you know, and I grew up thinking, you know, she got that sugar, you know, oh, she dying from the sugar, you know, not really knowing about it, you know what I'm saying, from a medical perspective, you know, from prevention perspective, or from a maintenance perspective. And so we tried to have these health symposium, to empower our people, because I don't know about where you guys live respectively, but within Tulsa alone, um, between North and South, I mean, South is predominantly white and North is predominantly Black. There's a 10-year life expectancy, and, I live South, but I'm Black, so I'm pretty much, predisposed to, those things that makes me who I am, and there's so many contributing factors, but I'm just on that know better, do better campaign, and to educate my community, and not wait on someone else to do it.
I hope you stay in touch, Dr. Lewis, and let us know when things like that happen.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll definitely, I think since, how you pronounce your name, Ms. Bose?
Ms. Baus, yes.
Nice. Okay. All right. And so, like I said, when we host something, then we'll send out the flyers. I know we're doing something Juneteenth, but it'll be in Tulsa and it'll be outside. It's support. If everybody know what Juneteenth is? Okay, Juneteenth is when, the abolishment of slavery happened, whatever, 1863 or however. Well, it wasn't until, don't get me on the years, but like Texas and other southern states, they didn't abolish slavery right away. So it was Juneteenth, like a whole year or two later, before their masters let them go. All right, so we celebrate, that true independence, of people of color.
That's great. And Kristen actually put in your information in the chat. So if everyone needs Dr. Lewis's information, it is there for you. This is also being recorded, so it will be made available on our website for viewing at a later date. And we so appreciate your coming, Dr. Lewis, and presenting to us. And for everyone that's in attendance, thank you for coming.